You read the title, right? I was the solo animator of a short film. The feature film is called Procura-se Gato, which could be translated to something like Wanted, Duck and Cat. It's a sweet short animated movie about how a lost little duck ends up bonding with a stray cat. Now, before we proceed, yes, I was the solo animator for this project, which means I've drawn every single frame of it, both backgrounds and characters, but the project is not mine, and other people have worked on it as well. It was created by Igor Coutinho and a great friend of mine, Letícia Belfort, also known as Tisha. Shout out to her, she's an outstanding artist. Therefore, the coloring, music, mixing, editing, and story are not mine. And this film have won some prizes at festivals, but that's definitely not only because of the animations, but because of the whole thing. If it didn't have the correct envisioning that its creators had, it wouldn't be nearly as good. I just executed, to the best of my abilities, what I could do and had to execute. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the process. By the way, parts of the animation will be playing in the background, but I highly recommend that you click in the link in the description. It will link you to the short film. It's not in my channel, it's on the festival's channel. And yeah, I've also sprinkled some working piece parts of the project here too, just so you could see the process from behind the scenes. For about 4 months last year, I was working on this project. It was not a full-time job, it was a part-time thing. And yes, 4 months resulted in 10 minutes of film only, but if you know anything about animation, is that it takes time and effort. I tend to divide things in life in complicated and hard things, because they don't really mean the same thing. For instance, cooking is complicated because there are so many specificities for each ingredient and combination. You would be mad if you tried to understand every nuance of every dish while you learn them. But it is easy because as long as you follow the recipe correctly, you will get food at the end. It might not be the best result ever, but it will be food, and you didn't have to understand the complexity of cooking to cook. Learning a language is a simple process. Most of it is done automatically for you. Your brain is better at acquiring languages than you will ever understand. But it's hard because it demands determination, constancy, passion, and a lot of time. And I like to think that animation is both hard and complicated. It is complex, and you have to understand its complexity to make it work. It's also hard, as it is skill and time demanding. It's crazy. So even though the film was animated on 2s and in some parts on 3s, which means most of it was 12 drawings per second, it still took an insane amount of time for me to pull it off. Mainly because, as I said before, I was the solo animator for this film, which means I made the very first sketches for every and each scene. Also the secondary sketches, then every keyframe, then every in-between. With a project like this, in which time is crucial, it was simultaneously a personal project and a piece of work as a graduation thesis, you will suffer time crunches, and time crunches are the worst. They happen in animation all the time, and this project was no exception to it. So there was a lot that we had to decide on to make things work. A lot of the process was simplified in some parts, but I believe we all did our best to match the original vision they had. And every time I think of how much I worked on it and how much blood and sweat I put into it, I feel proud that my friend Tisha did that as well, since she was the one who colored everything by herself. And keep in mind, this is a watercolor painting style, so it demanded a lot of time from her. Being the solo animator of a project has its good and bad sides. The good news is that you are free to play around with your imagination and creativity. There are very few limits to what you have to do as long as it fits the vision of your employers, and that was a saving grace to my art journey. You see, I dreamed of being an animator when I was younger and spent a good 2 years practicing it on my free time from my 16s to my 18s, and eventually part of the passion faded, mainly because of the status of the animation industry. It is a very rough career, and there are many other job opportunities that pay higher for less work, and which I had a lot of passion for as well, such as illustrating. So I've been sticking with that for the past few years, but this project sparkled that old love I had for animating. And it didn't make me think of getting back to it and making it the main focus of my career, or anything like this, but it made me feel free in what I was doing and made me challenge myself to pull it off despite everything that was happening in my personal life. And really, it was like liberating. But the bad side though is that it is a very lonely process. Most of the time, you will be with yourself, just going with the waves. Part of the time I was puzzled and intrigued by how I would animate this or that movement, but the other half was me working on technical stuff, drawing in-betweens, and when you do that for such a long time on the same project, it starts getting real lonely. It's different when you're working on a different illustration piece every single day. It feels fresh, and those new drawings kind of make up for the loneliness, but when you're visiting the same story and characters every single day, again and again, over and over, it might get pretty lonely, let me tell you that. And I can't pretend it doesn't. That's the ugly part of the process. But by far the best part of it was seeing the results. Whenever I watch this animation, I'm like, hey, I did that, nice. Honestly, it makes me feel proud. And as an artist, I can't stress enough how important that is. You gotta have your magnum opus, your artworks that you look at and make you remember all the hard time you had with it, all the effort you put into it, because that's it. Nobody will ever understand how hard you work on your stuff, so you better recognize it and be proud of it. I know I am. My animations are not perfect by any means. This short film is not perfect, but I am 100% sure that it was the best I could give. Now, should you do something similar to what I did? Should you be the solo animator of a short film? Should you put all this workload on yourself and carry it on? I don't think so. This worked out for me, kinda, but barely. I was dealing with some illness and problems happened along the way. This could have gone so wrong, and even though I feel proud of the final thing, it still took a toll on me. When it was over, I was feeling so packed and tired. I kind of forgot how to relax for some time, and the stress was just killing me. And it was my fault because nobody forced me to do it. I don't feel any regret for what I've done. At the end of the day, it was one of the most challenging and yet more fulfilling experiences I had, but I won't do such thing again. If I ever work on another animated feature again, I'll make sure to work with more people. And if I do work solo, it will be on a project with a less restricted time frame. Still, if you want to have an experience such as this, maybe in a pocket-sized version, maybe a shorter animation, do it, man. It's an amazing thing to be able to animate, to bring life to still images. And the world should appreciate more the great animators we have among us. So yeah, this is just a short commentary I wanted to make on this, nothing too crazy, nor too technical, just my personal experience with it. So I hope you've liked it and that you could take something of good for yourself. If you like my art, please subscribe to my channel and follow me on my social media. I'm aiming for 500 subscribers here on YouTube until Christmas, so I would love if you could help me achieving this goal. And of course, thank you for watching me talk about my stuff, out of all stuff you could be hearing other people talk about. And I guess I will see you around. Peace.
It's